Hello, everybody. I think we're on. Welcome to, this is our first live guided tutorial in Art Makers Club. We did one for the kickoff party, we did do that. So that, maybe this is the second, I don't know. But this is the first like official one. So, as you guys may know, Jeff, my amazing husband, is here manning production. He's behind the scenes. He's the one that's going to be reading through your chat. So if you have any questions, you can post them there and he will pass them along to me. We'll just give it like a couple minutes to let people join. So I hope you guys are doing well. I don't know. How's it going over there, Jeff?
It looks like we got a ton of people here right now.
All right.
We got there's 53 of us, 58 of us.
Wow.
Live, so that's awesome. We got a good little group starting now.
That's great.
Just about to hit 60.
Go ahead and say hi to each other. So so obviously you guys can see we're doing this one. This is a members only YouTube live stream. So if you want to participate in the chat and be able to ask questions, you do need to be signed into a YouTube account. If you just want to watch, you don't need to worry about that. You can just watch. And if you're watching from the event page, and you want to see the live chat, you just need to click where it says watch on YouTube. I think it's in the bottom, left corner of the viewer window if you're watching from the Art Makers Club event page. So let me know before we get started if you guys are having any problems. We want to make sure we get that all taken care of so you guys can watch, so that we can all follow along and draw these beautiful flowers. And then we'll get started. Make sure my brightness is up. Yes. Okay. How are things in the chat? Is everybody doing good, Jeff?
Everyone is doing good here. We've actually even got someone from Michigan, Wisconsin, Holland, Japan. It looks like Puerto Rico is here.
Yay!
So we got a lot of people coming in.
This feels good. We've done our last two events on Zoom, which I am obviously much more comfortable. Not obviously, but I am much more comfortable doing these live streams. Zoom is great too. I love they both have their pluses and negatives. I love getting to see you guys and see your faces on Zoom. The quality isn't the best, so I'm excited for this one to be on YouTube live, so we can get the quality that you guys are used to from my live event. So yay. And of course, if you cannot stay for the whole thing, we are going to be posting the replay just as soon as possible after this is over, so you can go back and watch it at your leisure. Anything else, Jeff? I don't know.
No, it looks like everyone can hear us.
Cool.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, let us know if there's any technical problems. Let us know so we can address them. Hopefully my air conditioner isn't too loud in the background, but it's hot as heck here, so we're not going to turn it off because it's way too hot. This weekend it's getting up, Monday I think is 112 degrees. Yeah, that's not going to be fun, so wish us luck, you guys. But maybe we have spring on the brain with this drawing. We're doing this lovely bouquet of flowers, which I understand. I don't know I'm sure there's nobody here from Australia because I think it's the middle of the night over there. But it's about to be spring over there. So yay for you guys. All right. Shall we go ahead and get started, Jeff?
I think that sounds awesome.
All right. Let's do it. Welcome back for our first members only live guided tutorial. I am so excited to be drawing with you guys, our lovely members today. We're going to be drawing this beautiful bouquet of flowers that you see here. And we're going to be using brushes from the bonus brushes. So those are included with your membership. You can download them from the, if you just go to the website, you go to the navigation bar. I guess I could just show you. I don't know what's in my thing right now. You can make sure you're logged in, and all you got to do is go to brushes here. And then I think down at the bottom, there's a link. If you're logged in, you would see a link to download them, so you can get them there. And yeah, I'm really excited. There's a lot of really fun brushes in here, but The ones that are going to be the star of the show today are going to be these dual color brushes that we're going to be using that do 2 colors at once. And they're really great for flowers, especially this one I call Petal Pusher, very aptly named. So we're going to be using that a lot to do our, here's another one that I did with the Petal Pusher brush, but really fun, and I'm super excited. So if you're watching live, please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat. Again, if you want to be able to use the chat to ask questions, you need to be logged into your YouTube account. But if you just want to watch, feel free to just watch, and you don't need an account. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, where am I? Yes, I'm in Procreate. All right, so let's begin by creating a new canvas. So we're gonna go up to, I always put things a little too close there. I made a little flower arrangement to go with our lesson today. Actually, stole flowers from the neighbors for that for you guys, so you're welcome. We're gonna go up to the plus sign here, and we're gonna create a new canvas. The canvas size we're going to be using today is 2800 by 3500 pixels. I use this is like my preferred vertical canvas size, so I have a template saved for that size, and then the one that I also use a lot, which is 3800 by 2800 pixels. If you don't have a template saved, you can create one by going to this little plus sign here. You can type in the width and height in pixels and then just hit create. So let's go ahead and create a new canvas. Again, 2800 by 3500 pixels, vertically oriented. All right, you know what? Actually, I'm skipping ahead. Let's go back to the gallery view because I forgot we're gonna be doing some petal practice before we actually get into the drawing, because I want you to get comfortable with how to use this Petal Pusher brush. So scratch that. We're gonna come back to that. If you already created it, that's fine. We'll come back to that later. But first, we're going to create a new canvas, and we're just going to do one that's horizontally oriented. I guess you could use that. So I'm going to be using my 3800 by 2800 pixel canvas for this. We're going to end up using both. So let's go ahead and open that up. Sorry about that. So again, I just created a canvas that's 3800 by 2800 pixels. And we're gonna be doing some practice with the dual color Petal Pusher brush so you guys can get comfortable with using it. We're gonna practice a few different petal shapes. So let's go ahead and get into that. Before we start drawing anything, I'm gonna show you how you can set up your Procreate file to be sort of like a sketchbook, which is good for like we're gonna be using multiple pages to practice these petals. So we're gonna use a really cool feature called Page Assist. So to do that, we're gonna go up to the Actions menu, which is the little wrench here, and we're gonna go to Canvas, and you're gonna toggle on right here where it says Page Assist. So again, Actions, Canvas, Page Assist, and turn that on. And when you do, you'll notice that there's a toolbar down at the bottom. And this essentially, it takes each layer in your Procreate file and turns it into like a page, and you only that layer is visible when you're on it. So you'll see it in a second, but it's a nice way to do kind of like a little mini sketchbook, which is going to be great for this. Okay, there we go. We've just turned on Page Assist in the Actions menu, and now we're going to go to our brushes. So I'm going to head into the brushes, and I'm here in the BB bonus brushes, and we're going to scroll down and select the dual color Petal Pusher. It's the second to last one in my set here. So again, dual color Petal Pusher. And the way that this brush works is it uses, if I go over here to my colors, so you can follow along, go over here to your colors. This brush uses the primary and secondary color. I don't know. There's a primary and a secondary color in the color picker, and you probably don't use this feature most of the time. Like it's not very, you don't use it very much, but it's great for things like this particular brush where the colors are built in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the colors of each of these. So we're just gonna do a pink. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over here into like my reddish pink area, and then I'm gonna choose kind of a light pink. So if you wanna take a peek at the color that I picked, I'm over here and just about right there, just like a nice light pink. Now that we've set the first color, we're gonna set our secondary color. And to switch, all you do is just tap this other rectangle. So if I tap that, now it'll switch to, I already have that orange color. And we're gonna choose our second color. So I'm gonna do something similar and just do over here in the pink and just kind of like a darker version of that. So you can see my two colors here. So I've got like a lighter pink and a darker pink. Just make sure there's enough contrast between those two colors so that you'll be able to see, you know, the two colors in your petals. Now before we start drawing, we want to make sure that our primary color is the color that's visible here. Because right now the darker pink is like the dominant color, so I'll show you what that looks like if I don't switch it. So we've got the dark pink here and the light pink here, and I want it to be the other way around, so I need to switch. So I'm gonna just tap on the pink, the light pink, and now light pink is like my dominant color, and then, or you know, primary, and the dark is my secondary. Hopefully that all makes sense. If you have questions, let Jeff in the chat know and he will shout them out to me. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna practice doing some petals. And you can just start making some marks. And the way that this brush works is the harder you press down, more pressure will show you this primary color, less pressure will show you this secondary color. So what I do is kind of like a flicking motion. So I do kind of heavier pressure and then light pressure and kind of like flick like that. And you could, if you do it really heavy and then let go, it'll kind of make this like fat petal shape. So it does take a little bit of practice to get, you know, to get the shapes that you want, but we're gonna do a little bit of practice with doing some like bigger petals and then some more narrow petals so that we can have a variety of petal shapes in our flowers. So just go ahead and start practicing with your pressure. So we're kind of going heavy to light with that little flicking motion. And just kind of fill this page with these like big petal shapes like that. Try, you know, experiment with you know, the speed at which you flick. If you do it really fast, you might have better results. But I will say, if you do it quicker, the quicker you do it, you kind of get a little bit more opacity on that first color. This brush has a little bit of opacity in it, you know, or lowered opacity, I should say. So.
What size do you have the brush set to right
now? That is a great question. I didn't mention that, but the size will make a difference. So right now I am at about 32%, 35%, somewhere in there. If I were to go really big, then you just wouldn't get that kind of smaller taper, and they would look kind of like that. So you can also experiment with your brush size and see what kind of results you get there. You know, I think like right now, 35% or so is really good. So how's everybody doing with their petals? Let me know, you guys. And then when you're ready, we're gonna go ahead and move on to some different petal shapes. If you run out of room and you wanna keep practicing the same shape, you can create a new page. That's what's awesome about this page assist feature. So you just tap new page here, and then you can keep going. It hides your all it does is create a new layer, and it hides the other layer. So only the selected layer is visible. I love using this when I'm just like playing around, doing a bunch of sketches. I'm not trying to make like a finished piece. So again, I'm just kind of flicking. I'm gonna do smaller brush size and kind of see, you know, I've got littler petals.
So some people are struggling a little bit. They're having to put theirs really high. Like their 35% is really skinny. And one comment was that I'm getting the dark, the light, and then the dark again.
Okay, so you might not be putting enough pressure in the beginning, because we're gonna actually be using exactly what you did to do some leaves in a little bit. So if I do light pressure, then heavy pressure, and then light, it'll look something like that. So let me see if I can try and do it. I don't know. It's a little harder for me to do because I think I've practiced it so much, but if you're getting like this little dark bit and it's kind of tapered at the top, it might be that you're not putting enough pressure down. Try doing really hard pressure and then just letting go. Like really hard pressure and then just like flicking your hand off the screen. This is a really physical action. It might be different than what you're used to with like Procreate. So yeah, please let me know if you're still having trouble, and you can describe to me what's going on, and I can maybe give you some advice. But I think pressing really hard is a really good thing, especially if you have your brush size kind of, now I'm at like 15%. And I can get these kind of rounded petal shapes that are a little bit more like fat. How's it going, you guys? Let me know. I want to know. And then we're going to try some other shapes too. It definitely takes a little bit of practice, so that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, so you definitely may have to take a look at some of your pressure settings, but I think the biggest thing for most of us is practicing actually using more pressure, because many of us don't use pressure normally.
Yeah, if I use my normal pressure that I draw with, it might look something like this, which is actually what we're going to be doing next, which is these like narrow petals. But if I do this heavy pressure, it creates these nice shapes. And sometimes you even get these little blurby kind of things, which I really love about this brush. It kind of looks very organic. So just try pressing hard and then just like a really quick, short, like don't even go very far. Like don't drag your pencil across really far. I mean, you can, you get petals like that. So this is really heavy pressure. And if I do less pressure, I just get kind of smaller of the same ones, but it's very short stroke, not much at all. Let me see light pressure. Light pressure will give me something like these little ones here. If I had a bigger brush size and I was doing the same thing, it would look kind of like that. That's probably like my medium pressure, which is just another look. I kind of like that actually. It's very kind of like almost has like a dry brush effect. Okay. Any more comments in there from people practicing their petals? See, that's really heavy. Yeah, when you have a bigger brush size, you start to get, it doesn't taper as much at the end.
That's actually what someone was just commenting on.
Yeah,
and I was going to say something. So
it just kind of is like, it doesn't taper because it's as big as it can go. So yeah, you want to go a little down and then you can start to get tapers. Let me go really small and just see. Then I just get these little pointy. So if you go really, so the smaller your brush size, the smaller the like, the fat part of your petal is going to be, and the opposite, Either way, big or small, you're not going to get much taper. Somewhere in the middle, you'll get more of a like petal shape. That's probably a good way to do it.
Someone was saying it looks like my colors are inverted. Could you explain that again?
I'm gonna do a new page. So you want to make sure that whatever color you want at the top of your petal shape, like up here, is what's displaying here. So if there's two colors, I can tap between them and change what's essentially my primary color. So if I have my dark color here, it's gonna look like that, which there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want. But if you want to know what's gonna be where, whatever is here is going to be the like heavier pressure of this petal pusher brush. So if I go to light, my like heavier pressure is going to be up here. My light pressure, which is like the flicking part, is going to be at the bottom. Okay. Any more questions before we do a different petal shape?
I think a lot of us are having fun.
It is pretty fun.
Very different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. This reminds me of, actual painting, like where with drawing in Procreate, drawing digitally, a lot of times you're, if you wanted to draw a petal shape, you might draw it like that. Obviously this brush isn't the best for drawing like that, but you would draw something like that. But this is like, imagine you had a paintbrush and you were doing a little like flick with a paintbrush. It's what this technique is very similar to. So it's fun. And it's fun to just kind of like just practice doing these petal shapes. Even if you don't draw anything, it's kind of fun. Any other questions, Jeff?
We're doing great right now.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to show you our next petal shape. So we're going to go ahead and create a new page. And this one is going to be more of like a narrow petal, kind of like a daisy. So it's a similar motion. You just kind of spend a little bit more time before you flick. So you're kind of like doing even pressure and then you flick. And you can create these like longer petal shapes. So I'm just kind of like doing even pressure and then flicking. And once you get like kind of a muscle going for it, it's a little easier. When I try to slow down and show it, it's almost harder, but I'm going down and then flicking. And I'm getting a little bit of the dark here, but that's okay. So I'm just kind of a little bit more controlled in my petal movements, I guess you would say. So go ahead and try and just make some of these longer petal shapes. So we're kind of, this is also an excellent exercise in working on your pressure control, which is a really important skill when it comes to drawing digitally, because so much of how brushes work are controlled with pressure, you know, especially if you're using the Apple Pencil. So this is just a good exercise to do just to practice your pressure control of using your hand. And I'll show you if your pressure looks like wildly off than mine, you might your body might what am I trying to think of? You might have a heavier touch, I guess you would say, and you can adjust the pressure curve of the entire Procreate app. So I'll just show you that real quick while you guys are practicing. You would go up to the Actions menu and then Preferences, and then you would go to Pressure and Smoothing. And this, if you move this bar up or down, this affects how Procreate interprets the amount of pressure that you are giving. I got to think of a better way to explain this, but if I were to move it down, then pressure, this looks like Procreate thinks that my heavy touch is a lot lighter, and it like kind of compensates and makes my touch seem lighter. Like I have to use really heavy pressure if I do that. And then if I were to move it the other way, it would think my light touch is very heavy. See, that's like I'm using all my pressure. So I just keep it at default, but you can definitely adjust that if you want to, you know, if you're having some trouble. Okay. All right. So how are our little petals going? How are you guys doing with that? I'm going to keep doing. So we're going to use this one to do some daisies in a little bit. Do we have any questions in the chat, Jeff?
How do we get to the pressure adjustment?
Yep, it was the Actions menu, Preferences, so it's like the second to last one, and then it's called Pressure and Smoothing, and then you get this little line that you can move around. And there's other options too. So stabilization will help you if you have like really shaky hand, you can adjust that, and that'll kind of compensate for shakiness. So that's another cool one too. So if you feel like you're shaky or your pressure doesn't seem right, you can always play around with these settings. All right. Do you have any more questions before I show you in the next petal shape? These are so fun. So these are long movements. I can do really long movements. Those would be like really long petals, which do exist in nature. There's some really long ones, but I'm trying to do kind of like little daisy petals. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and show you our next petal shape, which is going to be like a little bud, a little like flower bud. So I'm going to create a new page. And this one, we do it kind of in the opposite of what we've been doing. We want our like pointed part, the tapered part, to be at the tip of our little flower bud. So this is what that looks like. I'm just going to press down, and then my bud is pointing up. It can point any direction. So I made a petal there with like heavy pressure, and then I flicked. And then I'm going to do it again, but with a little curve. Ah! Ooh, I hit my little bar. Okay. So I did that with the curve. I'm going to do it again. So this time I'm just kind of curving. So I'll repeat that so you guys can see. So I'm going to do one like that, kind of upside down to what we've been doing. I'm going to start down here and kind of curve it around and then flick up and then curve and flick. I'll keep doing that so you can see it a few more times. Like that. So we've got this nice little bud. And if you wanted to switch your colors around, you could just tap over to your secondary color. If you want like the light to be at the bottom, or at the top, I mean. but I kind of like the way this looks with the darker at the top for these buds. I feel like, in my mind, I feel like that's what they look like. So I kind of like the way that looks. So again, just a little flower stroke and then curve it around. Practicing curving your petal strokes is also going to be really useful because a lot of petals have that kind of curve to them. So practicing doing that little curve and flick is another motion to try. I'll do a few more buds. Whoop. 1, 2, 3. And you could even, here, let me do a new page. You could make the ends a little, that one's not that great. You could make the ends a little further apart, and then you kind of get almost like a tulip, maybe, or maybe the bud's starting to open up. So another cool thing I like to do when I'm doing this is you can keep adding like ones down here, and you just kind of keep going and alternating almost like a brick by brick pattern. And then you get something that looks kind of like, I don't know, like hops, like for beer, right, Jeff? Or like maybe like a clover flower, those little, I don't know. It's kind of fun to play around with and see what kind of things you can make. When I was experimenting creating this class, I made these, maybe I'll show you if I have it. I don't know if it's anywhere close by. I made these little anemones using these same kind of motions, but I just like, ooh, let me see if I can do it. I just kind of started like this, and then I kind of made them shorter towards the middle. This isn't great. I have to practice it again, but that's kind of how I did it. And now they're little anemones. So there's more things you could possibly do with this brush besides petals. Okay. How are we doing on our little buds? How's that going for you guys? You can add more layers to it if you want. Make it a little more complex. Any questions, Jeff? I really like the ones that really curve in. It almost reminds me of like a peony bud or something like that. Super cute. Okay, if we don't have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and show you one last thing, and that's to make a leaf shape. So I'm gonna create a new page, and we're gonna switch colors now. So as we're doing leaves, we gotta make them green. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose kind of a warm green, so I'm almost, close to yellow. And then I'll just start with this color. So you can see, not like a super saturated green. I'm kind of down, kind of like that. And then for the second color, I want to show you a cool trick for if you want your secondary color to just be like a darker version of the color you have selected. I'll show you how to do a little quick trick for that. So basically I'm going to switch over to my secondary color. And Procreate has this cool feature that if you tap and hold this circle, it'll recall the last color that you had, which in our case is this green. So I'm going to tap and hold it, and then I'll close it and open it back up. And now they're both the same color green. So now I can just choose like a darker version of that same color. So it's helpful to do like if you're trying to choose like a starting place for your two colors. So I'll do that one more time so you guys can see it. I'm just gonna switch these both to random colors. Okay, so I'm gonna choose a green, and now I want the other color to be the same green so that I can choose a darker version of that. There we go. So I'm gonna tap and hold the color picker circle. Oh no, I skipped a step, I'm sorry. Switch to your secondary color, then tap and hold, close the little color picker window, and open it back up. And now we have both the same, and I can just make one like a darker, maybe I'll make it a cooler version of that same green, like that. Okay? For these leaves, I want the lighter green to be my primary color. So I'm gonna tap that so that my lighter green is here. And now I'm gonna do some leaf shapes. So for this one, this is another really good exercise in pressure control. You're gonna start light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. So that will look something like this. Light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. So go ahead and give that a try. So I'm doing very light, heavy, light. Very good exercise in pressure control. And you'll get these leaf shapes. So these are kind of like long leaves. They could also be pointed petals. So if I want to make a heavier leaf, I might just use a little bit more pressure instead of the amount that I was using before. The more, I guess the less you flick, you'll get these nice tapers. Here, I flicked a little less, so I kind of have a like blunt edge. Oh, that one's a little wiggly. How are we doing with all of these different petal and leaf shapes? Go ahead and let me know in the comments how you guys are doing.
Someone was saying how hard the curved ones were.
Yeah, those definitely take a little bit of practice. Here, I'm gonna do curved. This is a real challenge. Doing a curved leaf. So light pressure and curve. This almost looks like little bananas. Little green bananas. But if I was gonna do petal, you just kind of like flick and curve. So it's almost like whoosh, 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 if you can see that. Whoosh, whoosh.
Some people are struggling with them being uniformed.
You know what? That definitely comes with more practice, but you can also lean into it because these, again, are flowers. They don't have to be perfectly uniform. There can be a little bit of variation. But the more you practice this, the better that you will get at it. All right. Do we have any other questions or comments from you guys?
I think the biggest thing is all of us learning how to apply pressure in these different ways.
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit different. So something that definitely takes practice. And we're going to jump into the drawing in a little bit. And if it doesn't look perfect, don't worry. Like this is your first time doing this. I wouldn't expect to be perfect at it. In fact, I went through lots of iterations of trying to draw with these brushes, and it took me a while to get it. It's just like anything else where you practice and you get better at it. So, but it can be once you get it, it really pays off, and you can just start drawing flowers like crazy, and it's really fun.
It also changes our line control as we learn to vary pressure.
Absolutely. Do a few more little leaves. I'm going to switch I'll try with the light color. Oh, that looks cool too. So I just switched my primary and secondary color so that the darker is kind of, my, what's it called? Primary. So you kind of see what you like best. And, you can look and see reference photos of leaves and flowers and see like what colors would be kind of towards the ends and the middles and stuff like that. So
is it easier for you to apply the pressure and do it towards yourself or away?
Oh, that's a great question. I usually do it towards me. I can tell you that. I haven't really tried away. So if I'm drawing a flower, which we'll do in a minute, I would just be turning so that I can always do it that same, whatever way is most comfortable, something like that. I can kind of twist my wrist a little bit. So, yeah. And
then can you show us one more time how to do the color selections?
Yep. I'll put a new page. So I'll do a different color. I'm going to start with yellow. So I'm just going to choose a yellow color. And then I'm going to tap this other rectangle. And that's going to be my secondary color. And then I'll choose my other color, which is, I'll do like an orange. And then whatever you want for your primary color, you want to make sure you tap that so that it appears here. Because whatever is here is going to be your primary color, regardless. You could switch back and forth. But whatever is there is your primary. Okay? And so you can see that's what that looks like. Doing like those curved ones like that. Okay. All right. You guys are doing great. This is a new thing, so give yourself a little grace and understand that it takes a little bit of practice. Do we have any other questions about our petal practice before we jump into our drawing? Any questions? I'll sip my tea. You guys probably still doing more petal practice.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of people are figuring out that one way or the other way to flick is a little better for them. And that's exactly what you want to kind of practice.
Yeah, see what, because you can always rotate your canvas so that it's like ideal for you. I've kind of practiced it enough that I can kind of get it in both directions, but I feel like this way is most comfortable for me than this way. So, yeah. I'm kind of overlapping. All right, cool. Then I think we'll go ahead and continue, and we'll get into our actual drawing. So go ahead and wrap up, and we're gonna exit back to the gallery view now. So we're gonna go ahead and tap gallery. And if you accidentally created the canvas size for the drawing first, we have it here. If you haven't, what we're gonna do now is create a new canvas. Tap the plus sign, and again, this canvas size for the drawing portion is gonna be 2800 by 3500 pixels. And I picked this size because it's a good resolution, and it also is the right ratio to fit on Instagram without being cropped, so that's why I picked that size. All right, so go ahead and open up your new canvas, and we'll get started. I wanna make sure everybody's ready to follow along. So how are we doing, Jeff? Everybody ready?
Looks like we're doing really well. One more time, can you just explain the pressure on the leaves real quick?
Sure. Let me go back to that real quick, and then I'll... Okay, I'm gonna do it with the yellow because that's what I have selected, but... So we're doing light, if I do light pressure like this, that's what that looks like. And this is another thing to practice. You can just practice light pressure without the pressure variation. So this is my starting point, is this kind of light pressure. And then I'm going to this heavier pressure. So this is just that heavier pressure. So now combining that would be light, heavy, light. Light, heavy, light. Light, heavy, light. And it's less of a flick. If I do less of a flick, I'll get these nice tapers at the bottom. And it looks something like that. I hope that helps. Okay, I'm gonna go back to our drawing. It doesn't matter, that one. Okay, so we're gonna start with a very basic sketch. We're not gonna get into a lot of details here because we don't have to draw what the flower is gonna look like because the brush is gonna do that work for us, so there's not really a point to do it. But we wanna kind of lay out where everything is gonna be. So to sketch, I'm just gonna stay in this same set, the bonus brushes, and I'm gonna choose the Loyal Liner. It's a very simple brush. It's all we really need for doing this sketch. You can use any brush you want, but you know, something simple is good. And then I'm just gonna choose black. So go ahead and choose black as your color. And the first thing I'm gonna draw is my little vessel. And we're gonna be doing, if you guys see the drawing, we're gonna be doing this kind of glass vase. You can do any shape you want, but for the sake of maybe learning right now, maybe keep it really simple, like a nice little kind of cylindrical tapered shape. So we're gonna draw one kind of oval here, like that. And then we're gonna kind of just draw some lines that kind of taper out like that. And then another oval down here. Oops, I'll do that one more time. And you want these ovals to be, you know, kind of the same, but this one's a little bit longer. But again, this drawing is very forgiving, so it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I'm gonna just shrink this down just a little bit. There we go. I wanna leave some room at the bottom so that I can draw like a shadow underneath. Okay, so once you've drawn your vessel, your vase, we're gonna start laying out where the big flowers are gonna be. And flowers look good when they are, like, especially like the focal point flowers are in odd numbers. Something I learned in floral design in high school when I was in FFA. But we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do maybe a big one here, and then maybe another big one over here. So I'm just drawing circles, and then maybe one that's like a little smaller right there. And then I'm gonna kind of fill in some more I'll do another one up here. I'm gonna have some that kind of like hang down. So I'm gonna draw some circle right there and maybe one right there. And I wanna do one right here, but I kind of made this one too far over. So I'm just gonna scooch that over and I'll do one right there. Okay. I think for this drawing, it's best to not overlap any flowers just to kind of keep it simple. You can, of course, like overlap flowers in, you know, if you wanted to keep going and do a really lush filled bouquet. I think that would look really nice. But I'm going to just kind of not overlap anything right now. So now we've laid out the location of our flowers, we're going to draw some stems. So I'll start here and just kind of draw a line down. Oops, draw a line down. And it's definitely okay for them to kind of crisscross. I'm gonna leave these hangy ones for the end, so I'm just kind of filling in these like that. I like to see like individual stems at the bottom, so that's why I kind of keeping them apart like that. And then for these ones, they're gonna go all the way to the other side. A flower wouldn't necessarily, well, that's a really wilty flower. It might not go here, but naturally it might, you know, the stem might be here and then it will go all the way across the opening of the vase. So I'm going to do the same with that one. Oops. Something similar. Stems get a little messy, but that's okay. And that's it. That's the whole sketch. Super simple. It's just really to help us lay out where everything is going to go. Any questions so far? Cool. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and reduce the opacity of this sketch. So we're going to go up to our layers. We're going to tap the little N, and we're just going to turn this opacity down so we can use this sketch as a guide. And then right now we're also going to set our background color. So I'm going to go ahead and tap here for background color. And I'm going to go into like reddish orange kind of vicinity over here and choose, well, maybe a little more pink. You can kind of decide how warm you want your background to be if you want it more pink. I'm just going to choose a pretty light color. And maybe about right there for my hue. But like very light, not super saturated. Okay, there we go. So I just set my background color. Again, that's down here. And now we get to start doing our petals. So, you guys ready for this? We're gonna create a new layer. And I always like to keep my sketch on top just so it's easy for me to see. So I'll just drag the sketch layer, tap, hold, and drag it up to the top. So again, tap, hold, drag. Now we're ready to do some petals. So I'm going to start with these two big ones here. And I'm going to make those like white daisies. So I'm going to go to my colors and I'm going to choose white as my first color. Then I'm going to tap the other rectangle. And I am going to choose kind of almost like an off-white. It's probably a little hard to see, but you can kind of see. So I'm over here in yellow. I kind of started in the white area and then I made it a little darker, a little more saturated. So I've got white and I've got like kind of an off-white, yellowy kind of color. I'm going to tap back over to my white so that it's my primary color. So that's going to be what's at the like ends of the petals. And now I'm going to switch over to the petal pusher brush. So for these two flowers here, we're going to be doing those kind of longer petals. So here's how I like to do that. I'm kind of trying to make all the petals kind of connect towards the center. They don't have to perfectly connect. So I'm doing a little shape like that. And then I don't like to go around like a clock. I kind of like to start and do a few around the edges. Oops, that one's a little fat. And then I kind of fill in between, and that helps keep things looking a little more even. And if all your petals aren't the same size, that's okay. Again, you are learning, so have grace with yourself. So I'm just gonna kind of fill in as many petals as I want for that daisy. And that's what that looks like. So I'll show you that again because I'm gonna do this one over here. I'm just gonna imagine the center is here, this like where the stem starts, you know, you might not have gotten that perfectly in the center. So this is my center of the circle. So I'm just gonna draw a few petals kind of meeting, oops, there we go. A few petals kind of meeting up in the center and then fill in between. Oops. And you can always undo if they don't look like you want them to.
And what size is our brush set to right now?
Great question. I'm at 47%. And as long as you use the same canvas size as me, like, you know, our brush sizes matching up should be a good, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Okay, let me finish drawing these.
And someone will say mine feels very opaque.
So yeah, so this brush does have a little bit of opacity variation. Like you can see this petal is a lot more see-through, transparent than this petal. And the heavier you press down, the more opaque it's going to be. So if you find that, you know, your pressure isn't matching up with the amount of opacity you want, try a smaller brush size because you can use more pressure when you're doing a smaller brush size. It won't get too big because the brush size is down. So I'll try that. There we go. And then I also have another trick for making your petals a little more opaque. Actually, this brush size is a little bit better. I'm at 17%. And I think that works a little bit better for these thin petals. There we go. There we go. That one has a lot of petals. And then for this one down here, this is going to be a flower that kind of is like hanging down. So I'm only going to do like half of the flower. So it's going to look something like this. I'm going to do kind of like that. Just imagine this is like a petal, a flower that's hanging down. It's like drooping over. So kind of like that. I think that looks good. So there's my first 3 flowers. I used that kind of thinner petal shape, everything kind of like meeting up in the middle. It's okay if it doesn't meet up perfectly. We're gonna put like the center of the flower to kind of cover all that up. So, and you can always embrace the messiness too. That's what I like about this piece is it can look a little bit messy. Do we have any questions before I move on to the next flower? Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do a yellow flower now. So I'm gonna choose yellow for my first color. Just a nice, really bright yellow. And then for my second color, we're gonna choose kind of an orangey color. I did something similar like this when we were doing practice. There.
And real quick, someone just asked, why does my color keep changing to the pink background color?
I don't know. That's a good question. Are you doing this eyedropper maybe? I don't know if that's what you're doing. Like if you hold a finger down, it'll choose whatever colors, you know, under your finger. So maybe explain what's happening. I can help you out. Okay. So so we have yellow and orange. And we want yellow to be our primary, so make sure to tap over to yellow so that it appears here. And we're gonna do this one and this one, these two. And these ones I'm gonna do more of a like fat petals. So I'm just gonna go up with my brush size just a little bit more maybe.
And are we on the same layer right now as well as the other?
I'm using the same layer as the daisies because none of my flowers touch each other. If they did touch each other, I might put them on a separate layer. But because they don't touch each other, I can put them all on the same layer. Oops, that's too big. So I'm doing like heavy pressure flicking to do these. And again, I think it's helpful to kind of go around, not like around like a clock, just kind of like jump around and then fill in. So it looks something like that. And you can see I left a little space in the middle and that's fine because it's going to be covered up. And then I'll do the same for this one. This one will be a little bit smaller. Here we go. So now I've done those. And then the last two flowers, I'm going to do those little buds, and I'm going to make them pink. So I'm going to go ahead and choose kind of similar pink colors that we used before. Maybe a little darker, because we want it darker than our background. So, and then for the second color, do like a darker pink. So I have a lighter pink and a darker pink selected for the little buds. I'm choosing the lighter pink as my primary color, so I'll tap onto that. And then I'll do those. Oops. It's easier for me to turn and do it this way. Oh, no, it's not. It's better for me to go down like that. Oops. Yeah, that looks good.
Why don't you name your layers while you're working, Lisa?
Oh gosh, I ain't got time for that. I think I work too quickly to do that, and I rely on the little thumbnail to tell me what's on that layer. Or if I'm not sure what's on that layer, I'll just check this and uncheck it, and then I'm like, oh, it's these flowers. I think I work too quickly. If there's a real reason for me to name my layers because it really is going to help me stay organized, I would, but so far in my drawing experience, it hasn't been worth the time to do it. But that's just me. Some people are super organized and they'll do it. Okay, so we've done our 3 types of flowers. We've got our skinny, narrow petaled daisies, I don't know what kind of flower this is. We're just making it up. Yellow flowers with the fat petals, and then we've got some pink buds. So the next step is going to be to add the centers of all the flowers. So to do that, we're going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go up to my layers, and I'm going to tap plus to create a new layer. And we're going to actually switch brushes now too. So I'm going to go over to my brushes, and I'm going to use the dual color rush brush. That's hard to say. Why did I name it that? I don't know. Dual color rush is the brush I'm going to use. And this one is also a dual color brush. So let's start with the daisies. For the daisies, I'm going to do like an orangey yellow for the center. So I'm going to choose a yellow for one color and an orange for the second color. And this brush is a little bit different than the petal pusher. I don't know what color I'll do my primer. I'll try yellow and see what that looks like. Yeah, yellow looks good. So this one has it mixes the two colors together and also gives undertones of the secondary color in the texture. So it actually looks really nice for this center of the daisy. It looks like it looks like the center of the daisy. It's got the two colors in it. And I'm doing about medium pressure. I have 14% is my brush size. If you do really heavy and you keep it kind of will get a little transparent. So I'm just doing like medium pressure so that way I can see all that nice texture. And then I'll do this one as well. Just simple. It doesn't take much at all. Just a little motion there. So I've done my 2 daisies. And then for these, I want to do kind of like an orangey brown for these centers. So I'm just going to change the yellow color to kind of like a brown, which brown is like a dark warm color. So like dark orange would be a nice brown. So I've got orange and brown now. And I'll do these guys. So I've got a little bit of the brown, a little bit of the orange happening. There we go. So the daisies were yellow and orange, and then these guys, you can go over it again if you want it to be a little darker.
And which brush was that again, Lisa?
This one is called Dual Color Rush. It's right above the petal pusher. It's another dual color brush. And then I also want to add a little, what is this called? I looked it up. Sepal or receptacle, I don't know. I was trying to learn flower anatomy for some of these tutorials, but I don't know. So the little green part at the bottom of the flower, I'm just going to choose 2 greens. Yeah, like a lighter green and a darker green, because I'm just going to do a little circle there to where the petal connects or the stem connects. There we go. So that's the flowers. We've got our flowers, we've got the petals, we've got the little center pieces, And we're ready to start adding some stems, and then we're gonna add the vase. So let's go and do that next. So for the stems, we're gonna create a new layer, and we're gonna place this layer below everything else. So I'm gonna drag it to the bottom. And I'm gonna switch brushes now. We're not gonna do a dual colored brush for the rest of this, actually except for the leaves, but the brush I'm gonna use for most of everything else is called Old Softy. Old Softy. And it's got it's a nice solid brush, but it's also really soft. I think it complements kind of the other brushes really well. So Old Softy. It's kind of near the top. Okay, so when it comes to the stems, to make it easier for you to add shading to them, it's helpful if the stems that overlap each other are on separate layers. So it's up to you. If you want to, it'll definitely add a bunch of layers because everything kind of overlaps each other. So maybe we won't do that. Maybe we'll just keep it simple. Okay, I'm gonna choose, I'm doing yellow green, but I'm not gonna be super over here in the super saturated area. I'm going in a little bit. And I'm just gonna draw some stems. And the thing with the stems is I recommend making them go beyond where you want them to go, because we're gonna use the eraser to kind of chop them off at the bottom, but for now it's fine. So I'm just gonna do all the stems on one layer just for simplicity's sake. And I'm just making them go off. We're gonna erase that in a minute. So I'll do all my daisy stems in the same color, like that. And then maybe I'll choose a different green. I'm going a little cooler, a little darker to do, let's do these guys. Oops. Just kind of follow your, sketch for doing these. And then maybe one more green. If you wanted to be super diligent, you might, like I said, separate these onto layers, and then some would look like they're in front of others, but we're keeping it simple today because we're just mostly learning how to make petals. I think I want a darker color for this one. See how that looks. Ooh, that's too dark. Yeah, that's pretty good. No, it's too, sorry. I'm getting all sticklery about the colors. There we go. So just choose a few different greens that kind of look nice together and paint in all your stems. I just made whatever, each flower, I made the stems the same color for that flower. So that's kind of how I did that. All right, and then when you're done with that, we are gonna work on our vase. Do you have any questions before we continue? Good. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna create a layer above my stem layer. So just tap the plus and it should create a layer right above all your stems. And we're gonna color in the vase. So I'm gonna choose white, and to select a pure white, I just double tap close to white and it will snap to a pure white value. So I'm just choosing white. And then I'm gonna color in this whole vase shape. So I'm just gonna kind of do it like this. Get the outside of it, do the bottom, and the side. So I'm just kind of tracing the outline of this whole thing.
I just have to say, Ryan, you are right. We are all doing amazing and well, learning something really new for a lot of us.
Yeah. But I hope you're having fun. I think it can be really fun doing these petals, like once you kind of get the hang of it. And right now we're gonna also learn something new, which is how to make, I'm just coloring this in, if I didn't explain that, but I'm coloring this in. We're gonna make kind of like a stylized glass. So a little bit of transparency, a little bit of reflection. We'll be able to see the water. So this is kind of like a stylized version of glass. So go ahead and just color in. I don't use color drop. I'm not using color drop right now because this brush is kind of textured, so it would look a little funky. So So I'm just gonna color it in. You can make your brush size bigger to make it kind of go faster if you want.
And which brush is this?
This is Old Softy. It's the same one that we use for the stems. We're gonna be using this one for a little bit. So go ahead and just color in that shape.
Is there a reason why you kept adjusting your brush size?
Yes, good question. For control. So I made it big so that I could color in this area, but as I got close to this, I kind of got out of the, it was going unruly, so I made it smaller for here. So I'd have a little bit more control, and my brush strokes didn't go off the edge where I didn't want them to go. So for control, so I can control where I want that paint color to go. Digital paint. Okay, so I've colored in this whole shape now. Looks great. This is gonna be the back of our vase, and we're gonna have a back and a front to our vase, and it's gonna be a little bit transparent. So we're gonna start with the transparent part first. So we're gonna go up to our layers, and I'm gonna tap the little N, and just like we reduce the opacity of our sketch, we're gonna reduce the opacity of this vase to, I'm at like 43%. You wanna make sure you can still see it. Okay. And then I'm gonna duplicate that. You'll see why in a second. So I reduced the opacity of that vase shape. Now I'm gonna duplicate it. So I have two. I'm gonna move one of them under all the stems, like that. And the one that's on top, so I see I have two, the one that's on top, we're gonna erase a little bit of it away. So we're gonna choose the same Old Softy brush as our eraser. You can quick select an eraser, like whatever you have as your brush as your eraser, just by holding down, tapping and holding this, and that'll choose whatever you have as your brush as your eraser. So Old Softy is our eraser. And then I'm just gonna erase this kind of like top part of the vase using my sketch as my guide. And that's gonna make the vase appear transparent. So it's like more opaque, or less opaque in the back, where the two layers of glass don't overlap, if that makes sense. So you can kind of see how, maybe if I turn the sketch off, you can see how that's more opaque than that because they're on top of each other. Hopefully this makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. Okay, and now we're gonna add some water. So the water is going to go under the top vase shape and over the stems. So just like that. So it's under this one, but above the stems. And then we're gonna choose a nice blue color. I like a nice bright blue. You can choose whatever watercolor you wanna do. Water is not really that color blue, but that's okay. Okay, so because we're pretending this is a glass vase, if you were ever to look at a glass with water in it, the water doesn't go all the way to the edge of the shape because there's there's like glass there. So if you want to do stylized glass, you want to make sure your water doesn't, there's a gap between the edge of the water and the edge of the glass vessel. Whoops, I accidentally deleted my layer. So that's gonna look something like this. I'm gonna draw a circle here, kind of like that, just to kind of establish the top of the water. It's kind of similar to this shape, like that. I'm gonna make my brush size a little smaller so I have control. And then I'm gonna draw down here, again, leaving a gap. And then we're gonna go do the bottom and then the top. So we have a gap kind of all the way around. And that's to kind of give the impression that it's glass. And then fill it in.
Then can you show us the layers again for the vase and the water one more time?
Yep, so here's what we got so far. So underneath all our flower stuff, we've got the vase with the top cut out, that we erased. We've got our water. And below that, we've got our stems. And then below that, we've got our full vase shape, like the one that we didn't erase from. So go ahead and finish coloring that in. done. Again, you can make your brush size a little bigger to make it go faster, but here we go. Okay. All right. So, now we're going to use a blend mode to make the water look transparent so we can see the stems underneath. So it's a little bit different than just changing the opacity. So I'm gonna go up to my layers. I'm gonna go to that little N, just like before. And here we have a list of blend modes. And blend modes just affect how a layer, the contents of one layer affect or interacts with the layers below it. And they do all kinds of different stuff. Luckily, you can scroll through and see exactly what they do just by scrolling. So I'm gonna choose multiply, which is at the top of the list. And that makes my blue layer kind of transparent, and it interacts with the green in a nice way, for lack of a better explanation. So choose multiply. And now we're gonna give our water a little dimension by adding a light and a dark to it. So once you've set your water layer to multiply, go ahead and create a new layer right above that. And this layer, we're gonna use a clipping mask because we're gonna add a light, light part to our water and a dark part to our water. So to set up, to set a clipping mask, you're gonna tap the layer and you're gonna choose, not that. You're gonna choose clipping mask. And you'll see a little arrow that comes down. So now whatever I draw in this layer will only appear if it's within this shape of the layer right below it. So I can draw over here, but it wouldn't show up. I only will show up if it's inside this shape. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose just like a lighter blue, a lighter version of that blue. And now I'm gonna draw like that top circle part. I'm just gonna kind of do this. So so now it's kind of looking a little 3D, which is what we want. So I just kind of draw a curved line that kind of follows this curve and this curve like that. And then down here, I'm gonna draw a darker part, the darker version of that blue. So I can just go down to like a darker version of the blue, darker and very saturated, like that. And now I'm gonna do the same down here, but the other way. Okay, so on that clipping mask layer, it looks like that. I have the lighter blue on top, kind of curving that way, and then the darker blue on the bottom, curving that way. And because it's a clipping mask, again, what I just drew only will appear within this shape. Cool. All right, how we doing, Jeff? Everybody doing good in chat? Any questions?
And this is all on the same layer?
This is on a separate layer that we set to be a clipping mask. So you can take a peek there. We did our blue, that shape that we colored in, and then above that we created a clipping mask, and we did the light and the dark. Okay. Alrighty, so now we are done with our sketch. We can turn it off. So let's go up to our layers and just turn the sketch off. It's starting to look really good. There's a few more things left to do. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna edit my stems so they're still like going out the bottom of the vase. So let's go to our stem layer and we're just gonna grab our eraser and erase parts of these stems. And I like to kind of vary, I don't like them to all be the same length, because if I make one shorter, like this one, it looks like it's further back in my vase. So it's nice to kind of vary, the lengths of these for that reason. It's just kind of erase. Maybe this one is, if it's further down, it looks closer to me, closer to the viewer. There we go. Just trim your flowers, just like you were making an arrangement. Okay. And then to really sell this water, like transparent water effect, you can do something, you can erase parts of the water away. And this is really easy to do. you just go up to your layers, you go to the stem layer, tap the layer, and choose select. And this makes a selection of the contents of that layer. So right now, just the stems are my selection. And with that selection still active, I'm gonna go to my layer with the light and dark water. So it's this one, the clipping mask. And then I'm gonna take my eraser and erase away parts of the top of that water. So it looks like the stems are kind of sticking out of the water here a little bit. So kind of doing like different lengths, like that. That makes sense? Actually, that looks, hold on. And then you want to do the same on this layer as well. Does this make sense? So I'm just kind of erasing the water away. So it looks like that part of the stem is outside of the water.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, so what I did is I selected the contents of the stem layer by tapping it and choosing select. So that makes a selection of where the stems are. And with that selection still active, I went to the layers with the water and I'm erasing part of it away so that it looks like the stems are coming out of the water. It's a little hard to grasp, but it's basically I'm using the shapes of the stems to kind of erase part of the water. So it looks kind of like that. So now you can kind of see this is where it like goes into the water, if that makes sense. And then I can also erase the bottoms of the dark part, and then this will make it look like the stems are in front of the bottom of the vase. If that makes sense. So I'm erasing, here you can look at my layers. I am erasing the stems from the, the big shape, and then from the top and the bottom like that. And I'll upload this Procreate file so you guys can look at it. So if you're watching this in the future, I'll share the Procreate file so you guys can look at it.
And are we going to rock out with a color palette too?
Sure, I could try. It might not be the exact colors because I haven't saved them this whole time, but I will create one for you. Jeff's always trying to get me to make Procreate color palettes for you guys, so you can thank him for that. Okay, so that was a lot. Do we have any questions about the water? I think we're okay.
When I'm erasing, my stems change color.
Well, that is kind of expected. Make sure you're not, erasing the stems. You should expect them to get less blue. Like here, they look more blue because we have the, that layer set to multiply above it, and here it should look like the rest. It should look like the rest of the stem up here. So let me explain that a little more if you need more help. Okay, and so I'm going to deselect now. I'm just going to tap the selection. Deselect. Okay, so that's kind of what that's looking like. And then the final little water effects are, we're going to use, what brush did I use? Chalky grain liner. We're just going to add a little bit of reflection. So I'm going to use chalky grain liner to do that. So again, chalky grain liner and then just white. And then I'm going to create, oh, sorry, I didn't even say that. Create a new layer above your, actually above your, all of your vase, all the vase layers. You want a layer above that. And just to kind of make these look like they're in water, I'm going to add these little curved lines that are almost kind of like little ripples. Do you see how maybe that makes it look a little bit more like it's kind of in water? You can add one or two little lines kind of around the stems if you want, like that. We'll do one over here. So they're just like little ripples. And then you can add a little highlight kind of along one of the edges of the water like that. like that. So just add kind of just a little line just to give it a little bit of reflection, because water, this kind of emulates that shiny reflections that water can have. And then you can also increase the brush size. So I was pretty small before. I think it was like 10%. And then just like add a reflection kind of like that, or maybe 2, like that. So just adding these little reflections. I can add 1 along the lip. We'll add just a little bit more realism to this very much stylized glass drawing. I don't want to go in front of there.
So what's selected right now?
I have, nothing is selected. I just made a new layer above all the vase layers. So above all of these layers and the stems, I made a new layer to add these little shiny details. So I'm just kind of, oops, that's the eraser. Just kind of some little shine marks. You don't need a lot. So I just added little ripples around each stem and a big shiny mark there. I just made the brush size bigger for those. And then I went back to a smaller brush size, which was like 10%, and just added a little line, and that kind of just emulates the shininess of the glass. So even though this is obviously not realistic at all, those little touches that allude to realism will help it just feel more, I don't know, real. Yeah. So that's the entire vase, okay?
And what brush were we adding this with?
This one was the Chalky Grain Liner. It's the one at the very top. I love this brush. It's got some really nice texture, and it works really well at small and big sizes like I used here. So Chalky Grain Liner, it's a great brush. So the last little things to do would be to add some leaves. So I'll just show a few of doing the leaves since we're kind of getting a little long. So I'll show you some leaves, and then you're welcome to just go ahead and add as many leaves as you desire. So I am going to create a new layer. Let's make that below the stems. So I'll just tap this layer, this bottom layer, and then tap plus, so that creates a new layer below the stems. And then I'm going to choose 2 colors, 2 green colors for my leaves. You know, just one a little darker than the other. I like my lighter greens to be more warm and my darker greens to be more cool. So that's kind of why, you know, you can see the darker green is a little cooler. That's how I usually do my greens. And then I'm going to switch over to the petal pusher. Again, that lighter green is my primary color. And here's where the shapes, you know, the leaf practice comes in. You can start adding some leaves to your stems like that. As many as you want. So again, it's light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. A lot of control to do this one, so it's good to practice. But go for it. Don't worry if it doesn't come out perfect. And you can see there's this brush, you know, the petal pusher is a little bit opaque in some places. So I'll show you a way you can kind of help with that. So I'm going to add some leaves to my daisies like that. I think that looks really good. And I think I'll add a few leaves to this big tall one, but I'll make them a little darker. So I'm just going to go my color a little darker, a little cooler. And then I'll make the secondary color also a little darker. And I know that these leaves are probably going to overlap the other ones, so I'm just going to put them on a new layer. I usually create new layers anytime stuff's going to overlap. So that's why I'm making a new layer. And these maybe I'll make a little bigger. And, oops, do them like that.
What brush size are you using right now, Lisa?
It is 26%. Oops, that's big. So anywhere that you think could use a little bit of greenery, I probably should here. I want to make leaves that are the same color. I forgot to put leaves on this guy that's droopy. So I'm going to select this color using the eyedropper, tap over to my secondary color, and then select this color. So that's a quick way to get back to a color that you used previously.
Is there a reason why I can't see my leaves right now?
Check what layer you're on. Make sure like Alpha Lock isn't on or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure. Whoops. Nah. There we go. So you can keep going and keep adding more leaves to kind of fill it in and make it more lush, more full if you want. But I really quick want to show you how to deal with this kind of opacity thing. So if you're, and this works with any, any type of brush that has a little bit of opacity and you want to make it a really easy way to just make it more opaque. Go to the layer with the flowers and just duplicate it. So you just swipe to the right with your pencil and choose, or sorry, the left. I don't always know my right from left. And choose duplicate. And that's gonna help, that's gonna layer it up so it's a little more opaque. I don't mind that it's a little opaque. In fact, you could duplicate it again and that will make it even more opaque. So it's up to you. You lose a little bit of the detail when you do this, so there's kind of a trade-off, but if you like the way it looks for this flower but not this flower, you could always like go to this layer and just like erase that part of it, or something like that. So yeah.
How is it, Lisa, that when you're moving and turning your screen all the time that you're not getting any marks from your fingers?
That's probably because I have a matte glass screen protector. And there definitely are marks here, so you can't just see it. I can see fingerprints. But having the screen protector is going to be a real key. Highly, highly recommend it. It also makes it very smooth to draw on. Some people like that paper-like texture. I don't like that. I don't like not a fan at all. I love the smooth, buttery drawing feeling. So,
and does palm rejection or anything else have any effect on that as well?
No, it shouldn't affect anything. Like as long as you're using like an Apple Pencil or a stylus that interfaces with Procreate, palm rejection should all be built in. I don't think there's anything to turn on. It should be automatic. Okay, we're gonna add just a little shadow and then we'll be done. So to do the shadow, I'm gonna select my background color using eyedropper, create a layer, and then move it to the very bottom. And we're gonna choose a color that's a little darker than the background color, so that's why I selected the background color. And if I can remember, I think I used Watery Painter to do the shadow. So let me see. I don't know if that was it. Now I can't remember. Anyone that's soft, like soft sandy, I think would be, yeah, let's do soft sandy. So I'm just kind of drawing an oval with pretty light pressure like that. It's a pretty soft brush, so it'll look really soft. And it's a little bit opaque, so if I layer, maybe I'll make my brush size a little smaller now. It was at like 30%. Now I'm gonna go down. And then I'm just gonna draw that. And that's it. I just want the shadow to be a little darker near the bottom of the vase, like right next to it. And that is the entire finished piece. There's obviously a lot more that you could do with this and keep going and adding shading and more details to leaves if you wanted, but I think this is a really, once you get the hang of doing the petal pusher, it's a really great way to very quickly make some flowers once you get the hang of it. So keep at it, keep practicing. You can head back to your document that has all the practice and just keep practicing at it, and then maybe come revisit this video and try again or try some different flowers. But I think that you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. And in the club, I'm gonna make a post in the Art Makers Gallery topic, so you can share your flowers. So I haven't made it yet, so I'll go do that right now or as soon as we're done. So we'll have a post where everybody can share their artwork and everybody can look at everybody else's, or you can make your own post too. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know this one was kind of a long one, but I love doing it with you and I can't wait to do more. Our next live event is coming up on September 8th, and we're gonna be doing this fun drawing of stationery. Doesn't have all these special like flicking techniques, so I think this one will be a little bit more simple. So I will see you then. Until then, happy art making, and